I recently have acquired a new book. I've yet to open it. This is now a book opening, a box opening, a package opening. I'm excited. I'm going to show this to you. Let me just show you real quick. It is, of course, an occult book I ordered. It came beautifully wrapped with black and gold star paper. It came from Dawn of Jupiter. So Dawn of Jupiter, they sell really cool, rare books. I won this in an auction. It was a last-second bidding war, and I got it. I grabbed it. I really like their foil stamp card and their foil sticker. That's some high-quality stuff. Like MGIC is going to have to get a hold of some cool stuff like this. I definitely don't want to damage it, you know. Don't want to damage it. It's so cool. But there it is. I'm going to keep this as a memento. Very cool, high quality stuff. I appreciate that. So here is the first view. Please support the channel. There's a new MGIC t-shirt. It looks just like this. This is it. This is the newest MGIC t-shirt. Please pick it up. We have a Phantom, Mysterialis Ghost Investigation Crew. Pick yourself up a t-shirt. Mysterialis Ghost Investigation Crew. MGI. Mysterialis Ghost Investigation. Just get yourself a t-shirt. Mysterialis Ghost Investigation Crew, MGI, Mysterialis Ghost Investigation. Just get yourself a t-shirt. Get yourself a t-shirt. I like it. So let's open this up. This is the title page. It is entitled Immortality or Future Homes and Dwelling Places. Immortality or Future Homes and Dwelling Places. A very cool title, but it's a little confusing. What's it talking about? Let's find out. Here is the spine. Oh wow, the back. The back has foil stamping as well. That's a surprise to me. The back says, Immortality or what 100 spirits say of their dwelling places. The back says, Immortality, or what 100 spirits say of their dwelling places. And that's very intriguing. Okay, we're not talking about house hunting here. We're not talking about real estate, or are we? We're talking about spiritual real estate, perhaps. Spiritual house hunting, perhaps. 100 spirits say about their dwelling places. That's intriguing. That's an aspect of spirituality, of the spirit world, that is seldom talked about. So I'm 100% going to read this entire book. This book raises my occult book collection to a whole nother level. This is a first edition, very rare book. Immortality and Our Employments Hereafter, with What 100 Spirits, Good and Evil, Say of Their Dwelling Places, by J.M. Peebles, M.D. Boston, Colby and Rich Publishers, 1880. This book was on the shelf at bookstores in the year 1880. This book is from 1880. This is by far my oldest occult book, 1880. First edition, 1880. This is the real deal. It's very beautiful. I never heard of it until I saw it. It intrigued me. I wanted to do a full investigation, just research, book review of it. And I don't like reviewing books with the reader copies sometimes. Sometimes I prefer the original editions. Like, for example, I have a Manly P. Hall book, The Initiates of the Flame. That's right. The Initiates of the Flame by Manly P. Hall. I have like a second edition of that book. Maybe it's a third edition. But it's an early edition. And on page 33, it mentions Jesus. There's 72 pages in the book. There are just many occult pieces of information that jump out to you. And then you look at the page of that information and it perfectly associates. Like, Jesus died at age 33, 72. We have 72 names of God. We have 72 demons. It goes on and on. So that's why I like getting original copies. If I were to grab The Initiates of the Flame modern day reader's copy, just published by some Joe Schmo, you grab it. They condensed it. They expanded the text. They reduced the text. It doesn't have 72 pages anymore. Everything's out of place, and it's not how it was intentionally meant to be read. So you can sometimes see secrets jump out to you with original editions. So I'm very glad I have this original edition. I don't have any opinion on this subject whatsoever. I don't know the author's background, Peebles. I am not familiar with Peebles. But Peebles is apparently a doctor, Dr. J.M. Peebles. Not familiar with Dr. J.M. Peebles, but a lot of the early spiritualism, spiritism themed books in the 1800s did have doctors' names attributed to them, and reverend names. Doctors and reverends wrote a lot of books on the subject. It was a heated topic of discussion and debate at the time, and I'm very excited to get through this. 1880, you got to understand the context. Billy the Kid was still alive when this book was on the shelf. Billy the Kid, rest in peace, was shot and killed in 1881, 1 year after this book was released. So Billy the Kid could have theoretically walked into a bookshop and have seen this book. Maybe he picked it up, maybe he read a couple pages. I doubt it, but it's theoretically possible. So that's interesting to know. And the font is pretty small. So this book is pretty lengthy. This book is 292 pages long. So I'm curious where this information was acquired. It looks like we have some question and answer sessions. Something you do see time and time again with these spirit-related books. Let me just read one question. Question on page 133. Did you soon desire to return to earth and communicate with mortals, informing them of your new surroundings and teachings? Answer from the Spirit. Not until after my full acceptance of spirit life as I found it. Question. Are there not spirits in that life who are really opposed to returning to earth? Answer. Indeed there are. While some are indifferent, being absorbed in the pursuits that engage their minds. Question. Have you a teacher? Answer. Many of them. Each specific subject that I pursue has a teacher specifically devoted to it. We have large institutions of learning, and in each institution there are a number of teachers. Teaching is usually by means of representative objects. It's interesting. Question. Is thought a spirit substance? Answer. It is spirit substance in motion. Question. What is the difference between a thought and an idea? Answer. Thought is a spirit substance in motion, while an idea is an ever-enduring principle or statical form of spirit substance. This is some random stuff. I'm not convinced this is real, but it could be. Now, I've read many question and answer books before. One of them is about a person who had just in their house, information, question and answers to an unseen being, which they were convinced was an extraterrestrial. And so the entire book is themed extraterrestrial-wise on the cover, in the title, and you're convinced this person, at least the subject matter is presented to be alien. Here's an extraterrestrial I'm communicating with. And the author said the extraterrestrial was obsessed with religion, religious subjects, religious topics, angels, and Jesus. Now, if an entity you can't see is obsessed with angels and Jesus, it's not a freaking alien, and never was, okay? It was always a spirit, probably a negative one, posing as an extraterrestrial. I read a second book with the same scenario, purporting to be an extraterrestrial, telepathically communicating with someone, and that entity is obsessed with religious topics. It's a spirit, okay? 100% of the time, all right? But I'm going to show you those books, those two books I talked about. I'm going to show you, do a back-to-back review, perhaps. It's just, I already know in the comments there's going to be, oh, it's an alien, it's an alien, it's an alien. That alien's just interested in human religion. Yeah, I don't think so, okay? There's no evidence there's any otherworldly being. It's either a crazy person or a person getting communication from a spirit. Spirits are invisible. So if you're getting telepathic communication from anything, it's most likely a negative entity. It's just it rarely happens. But it's common enough where if it does happen, be wary of it. And it's rare enough where you don't see people write books on the subject. Now, I don't know the background of Peebles, but it seems to me he greatly wanted to know about the afterlife. Maybe he got caught into a negative entity doing a Ouija board type session, probably before Ouija boards were for sale in 1880. So who knows how the session began? This could be a communication in a dream, and they wake up. I don't know the context, but I will do a full review and tell you what it's all about and give my opinion on it. But still, this is a very fascinating book. There are similar question-answer sessions. Dr. John Dee with Edward Kelly had many question and answer sessions with many different spirits, supposedly. But it's something more of antiquity. It's more something that happened back in the day. You don't see any new books pop up that often of here I talk to an invisible entity. Here's my question and answers with an invisible. So it's not a modern day thing you see that often. I do see glimpses of it with usually a UFO cult leader or an extraterrestrial ambassador. Those are the type of people I do see. So I guess you can't see it with New Age influencers. And they'll say, I have a question and answer session with this alien. He told me, blah, 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 New Age of Aquarius. And the Age of Aquarius. That is something that was repeated time and time again, supposedly by extraterrestrials, to actual people in the 60s and 70s. They kept repeating this Age of Aquarius thing. And the famous song by the Fifth Dimension of all bands, Age of Aquarius, a beautiful song, a wonderful song. But the Fifth Dimension is where, in my opinion, negative entities reside. So I think that's a very interesting band name, the Fifth Dimension. Their number one hit being the Age of Aquarius. Maybe a coincidence. I'm not a conspiracy person, okay? I focus on spirit investigation, spirit research, but also firsthand using devices to get answers. This is the Spirit Box PSB7T Spirit Box by Gary Galka's Pro Measure Company, and I didn't realize there is a hot and cold light on it. And so you can ignore the radio Spirit Box, which is the whole point of the whole device, and you can go into the temperature mode and simply walk around, and if extreme heat or extreme cold take place around the sensors, this light will turn red for hot and blue for cold. And you can actually use that to communicate. There's a guy online that used that feature to communicate. I was like, hey, I think I have one of those. I didn't even know that feature existed because I've barely used this. I barely scratched the surface of using this device. But I will use it, and I will focus an entire investigation using the hot and cold sensor. I've actually wanted to get my hands on a hot and cold sensor device that focused only on that, not knowing I have one, which is amazing because it's a side feature of the Spirit Box. I wasn't aware of it even being on this device, but I will be using it and testing it out, but not at my house. I have a strict rule, not at my house or close to my house. That's a rule I tend to stick by. I can't wait to read this book. It's one of the question and answer books, and take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's either real or it's not. It's either a ploy or it's not. It's either disguised as something else or it's blunt and honest. But to get a question and answer session today using modern day technology is extremely difficult. So the way you can get easy question and answer sessions is in a dream-like state, trance-like state, and I don't necessarily recommend that in any way, shape, or form, but that's how you're going to get clear answers. Like full-blown, hey, how's it going? Oh, not much. What'd you do today? Just floated around as a spirit. You're just floating around, just doing spirit stuff. Oh, what is that? What are the details on that? What does a spirit do in everyday life? You're not going to get crystal clear, full-blown sentences, let alone paragraphs, like a book like this, using technology like this. Which is why there's so many skeptics. Skeptics are going to say, how come they don't answer in any coherent way? It's just random blurts of random words. Because of the dimensional barrier, any spirit that actually is trying to communicate is going to have a very hard time using technology. Whereas in a dream or trance-like state, they're going to have more access to a full-blown conversation. And even then, it's under the realm of interpretation, and you're not sure if it's real or a dream. But I will do a full review of this book. Very excited to have it. 1880. Let me show you the copyright page. 1880. Very rare book. I'm glad it comes with a plastic dust cover. Now I got to make room. Okay, I made some room. Kicked out some stupid magic books. Here's the stupid magic books I kicked out to make room. I'll put these somewhere. These are vintage dime store magic books. So I had a question the other day. I saw this on the Kesha ghost hunting show. And I've seen it on many ghost hunting shows. I've seen it time and time again. I've seen it easily 100 times, to the point where I'm going to have to make an entire video with this topic, because I'm just going to barely brush on the subject. But the topic is, you turn on a ghost hunting device. Let's say it's a REM pod that answers yes or no questions. Is there a spirit here? Beep, beep, beep. Yes. Okay, there is a spirit here. Okay, that's a truthful answer, because the spirit just answered, yes, it's here. So therefore, the person asking the questions is tricked and deceived into thinking every answer is going to be truthful and correct and honest. That's not the case. The next question is, are you a male or a female? These spirits, they don't answer honestly, okay? It might be 50% of the time they don't answer honestly. Whatever the case, when it's a negative entity, it's going to answer honestly sometimes, enough to convince you that it's always going to answer honestly. And then it's going to be dishonest for manipulative purposes, maybe just to test the intelligence of the human it's communicating with. Maybe just to play games, because it's a trickster entity. On this show, it kept leading into the realm of, are you a man trapped in a woman's body? If you're asking a spirit if it's a man trapped in its woman's body or a woman trapped in a man's body, you're so far away from the spiritual realm that you might as well be asking this spirit if it has 20 tentacles and is from the planet Zebulon. Do you have 20 tentacles and you're from the planet Zebulon? Beep, 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 beep. Oh, you are? Okay. Because that's what happened. They asked the spirit questions about being something trapped in something's body, whether it's this trapped in something's body, that trapped in something's body. Might as well have been a dolphin trapped in a penguin's body. Are you a dolphin trapped in a penguin's body or a penguin trapped in a dolphin's body? Beep, 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 beep. Oh, okay, so you're that. So they asked leading questions. And the spirit's like, okay, beep, 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 beep. Are you this or are you that? Beep, 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 beep. At this point, the spirit's just playing with the device, or playing with the person, or playing with both. But you could literally ask the spirit, do you have 19 tentacles or 17 tentacles? Beep, 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 beep. Are you from Zebular or Morbuli? Beep, beep, beep. It doesn't matter what questions you ask. When I do an investigation, I try to establish intelligence. And then there's always a point where the entity lies. In one of my earlier investigations, this Tucson tunnel, I asked the spirit, oh, is there a spirit here? And when I did a sharp turn, because I read a book, here it is right here. I read a book entitled Magic and Mystery in Tibet. And in Magic and Mystery in Tibet by Alexandra David Neal, Alexandra said that spirits are always walking so close to your back that if you turn, they turn. And I never heard that before. So I wanted to test it out. So I had a millimeter, and I said, is there a spirit here? And then I made a quick turn to my back, and it went off. It went beep, beep, beep. And mere seconds before or after this is one of my best EVPs I ever captured, where the spirit said, that's not a spirit. And it's a legitimate EVP. It legitimately, in a man's voice, says that's not a spirit. It's kind of an old man with a raspy, whispery voice saying that's not a spirit. And it's not my voice. It's the voice of a totally different entity, a totally different being. But I tested out the spirit following on my back theory, and I turned around in that video multiple times if you watch the entire video. And I have multiple copies of that video. I have the raw unedited version. I have just the edited for, here's the interesting parts. Of course, some people are going to say it's fake, but that's a legitimate video. Go to that location yourself, test it out. It's a haunted location. It's like a mile away from the slaughterhouse, which is a famously haunted location. I couldn't have access to the slaughterhouse, so I looked until I found a pipe that led from the slaughterhouse. I went to that pipe knowing that there's a chance spirits can travel through pipes. Now, spirits can travel through walls, okay? Spirits can travel through anything. But for some weird reason, unknown to human beings, spirits, negative entities specifically, they enjoy traveling through pipes, perhaps caves, perhaps tunneled systems. They just like it. Perhaps they feel more comfortable traveling in a nice, isolated area away from humans. Perhaps that's why they do it. Whatever the case, I went to this Tucson tunnel entrance, and a good 30 feet, even before getting to the entrance, maybe 50 feet, maybe 100 feet, there was a lot of spirit activity on the millimeter. A lot. Where I got an EVP that's not a spirit. Where every time I turned around, the millimeter went off. But even it got to the point where I didn't have to turn anymore, and I asked it yes or no questions. Like I said, are you intelligent? Nothing. I said, hey, can you prove your intelligence? And it kind of refused to want to prove its intelligence. But I asked enough yes or no questions where I did get beeps. But if you ask leading questions, are you an extraterrestrial from the planet Zebular, from 20 million light years away? Beep, beep, beep. Are you not that? Beep, beep, beep. You're going to get dumb answers to dumb questions. That's just what I've seen time and time again. But at the same time, you're going to get false answers on the regular. It's a common occurrence. And so it's very hard to establish any information from these entities. But you can establish intelligence, and that's it. You can't establish whether they're male or female, how old they are, what their name is. You can't establish things like that. A beep, beep, beep of a random question isn't establishing any information that's more detailed than are they intelligent or not? Are they present or not? That's pretty much all you can learn from them. Are they present? Are they intelligent? And they're going to start acting like children, playing with a toy. And so it's even hard to establish how intelligent they are. Because I guarantee you, some of these entities are extremely genius. They know exactly what's going on. And they're going to act like little kids and try to throw off the investigator. They're going to try to let you put your guard down and just be wary while you investigate. Now, there's a question that popped up that I had to answer. The myth that some ghosts don't know they're dead. Even this book tends to have talked about it briefly. The myth that some ghosts don't know they're dead. I just watched an episode of Celebrity Ghost Encounters, or Celebrity Ghost Stories. Yeah, it's called Celebrity Ghost Stories. So I just watched that show. I'm watching like every single celebrity ghost story, and the less famous, usually the less interesting the story is. But that's not always the case. But I'm kind of skipping to the celebrities whose name I even am familiar with, because half of them I don't recognize the names. But I still listen to the stories. I'm trying to get information on the background of these celebrities. It gives you some insight into the spirituality of Hollywood. And these are just individuals who happen to work in Hollywood. But it's interesting. Some of them believe in spirits, announce that they've had contact with spirits, and you wouldn't expect that to be the case. You'd expect them to be severely guarded and say, I don't know either way. And they're going on a show called Celebrity Ghost Stories, and they tell a story. But the lady from Cheers, Shelley Long. Okay, her name is Shelley Long. See? So Shelley Long said she was filming a movie. And she said at that point she'd filmed dozens of movies and TV shows. And never had she ever experienced the audio equipment guy and the camera guy having issues with the camera and audio equipment. It would constantly shut off and break down and stop working for hours and hours and hours and hours. She said after filming 100 movies and TV shows, she had never experienced anything like that. And someone asked, apparently it was in an old location, maybe a hotel, maybe a house, I don't know. Someone asked the staff, and the staff admitted, oh yeah, this place is haunted. And they're like, what the heck? This place is haunted? Great. So then, of course, all of these technical difficulties were attributed to the spirit at that point. But she said, in between filming, she'd be alone in a room, just sitting there, having a break, probably taking a 15-minute break, maybe a half an hour break, whatever the case. In between shooting, in between setting up, in between this and that. There's a lot of downtime. She's just sitting in a room by herself in this haunted room. And she said she can hear like rustling in the corner of the room. Just weird sounds of someone being there, someone being present. And she started talking to this person on the multiple occasions in which she was by herself. And she would say stuff like, I know you don't know you're dead, but go toward the light. Assuming a spirit doesn't know it's a spirit is a stretch. Never assume a spirit doesn't know it's not a physical entity living in our physical dimension, alive. Never assume a spirit doesn't know it's dead. Never assume a spirit doesn't know it's a spirit. Okay? That's something that really ticks me off because these spirits know a lot more than we do. All right? These spirits are far more intelligent than we are. Okay? They know their spirits. They know they're on a spirit plane of existence. They know they can see us, and they know we can't see them. They know they can manipulate objects in our dimension on a minimal level. They know what they are and who they are. They know what's going on, all right? Assuming they don't is a grand ignorance of mankind. When humans say, I know you don't know you're dead, but go toward the light, is an extreme cliche, but it's something that Shelley Long didn't know. She bought into the cliche, obviously, and this is her, like, perhaps most obvious encounter with a spirit. She's hearing rustling, walking, moving, I don't know about talking, but she's hearing knocking, moving, rustling in the corner of a room, okay? She's by herself. She knows it's a spirit. So she starts talking to it. I know you're dead, or you don't know you're dead, but I know you're dead. Just go toward the light and everything will be fine. Go toward the light. You know that light? Don't go away from it. Go toward it. Go into the light. And so she was repeating this over and over and over. Watch the episode for yourself. You can watch it for free on Tubi right now. And when I mention you can watch it for free on Tubi, it's not an advertisement. For example, Tubi just pulled Max Headroom, at least for me. So you can no longer watch Max Headroom on Tubi, and I'm greatly disappointed. I guess they didn't renew their streaming rights contract. That's unfortunate. So not every time I say watch it on Tubi is it always going to be there. They have to re-up their streaming contracts. Streaming is something they pay for probably year to year. And so next year or next month, whatever the case, it might not be available. But right now, Celebrity Ghost Stories is on Tubi, and you can watch a bunch of them. The Marilyn Manson one, where he notedly doesn't call himself Marilyn Manson the whole time. He goes by Brian Warner, his actual birth-given name. And I think he wanted to go by Brian Warner because he's telling the story from Brian Warner's perspective, not from Marilyn Manson's perspective. And at the end, just watch that episode. I did a full video about it, not seeing the full episode. So I watched the full episode just the other day. And basically Marilyn Manson went into a basement, read the Necronomicon, specifically the Simon Necronomicon, was hearing spirit voices, was freaked out. Him and his friend were freaked out. They left. And then the next day they tried to find that basement in a house that didn't exist. It was just kind of a basement near a field. It's kind of a construction site type of a situation. And they tried to find it in the daytime. They couldn't find it. Now, I think they just couldn't find it because maybe it was hard to find. Maybe they took a turn in the middle of the night and they just couldn't find it. Whatever the case, he says if he went to find it right now, it wouldn't be there. So that is pretty interesting. He says it's what perhaps made him who he is today, Marilyn Manson. So watch that episode. But the Shelley Long episode, it's very short. It's only a few minutes. But she tells the spirit to go into the light. Go into the light. Go into the light. Hey, spirit, I know you don't know you're dead, but you're dead. Go into the light. Go into the light. Go in. So she even on the show said she repeated go into the light like 5 times. And all of a sudden, the light bulb hanging from the ceiling in the recreation. Who knows where the light bulb is located, but there's a light bulb in this room. And it exploded, and fire got on the set, the walls, whatever the case, and there's burning, and they have to put out this fire. And it was clearly the spirit that caused the light bulb to explode. And it's not the first time I've heard of spirits exploding light bulbs. There's actually a couple stories I've heard of recently of spirits exploding light bulbs. It's something that they can do, but they don't do it every day, but they can. And in this particular instance, I found it extremely funny that Shelley Long didn't conclude that she's the one who told the spirit to go into the light. The spirit's a demon, okay? It's a negative entity, okay? It's not going to go into heaven, all right? It's going to go into a light bulb, all right? So the spirit's like, go into the light bulb? Clearly, you don't know that I know everything that's going on. I'm going to screw with you, and I'm going to go into the light bulb. So the demon explodes the light bulb, going into the light exactly as she asked. That's how it appears to me as to what happened. Now, draw your own conclusions. If you ask a negative entity to do something, it's going to view those questions from the mindset of a negative entity. It's not going to view it from a mindset of anything other than a negative entity. Now, it could play a game and pretend it's a human spirit, and it probably does on a level that fools psychics on a regular basis of, oh, go into the light. Okay, I'm leaving. Bye. and the demon pretends to ascend into some heaven spiritually realm toward the angelic celestial lights. But the demon's just hanging out there the whole time, just pretending to have done that. What I find extremely annoying is when ghost investigators, ghost hunters, think they are sending spirits into heaven, into the light. There's a guy on YouTube who will remain nameless, who thinks, we're doing God's work. We're doing great work here. We just sent 20 spirits into heaven. Well, pat myself on the back right there. We're doing God's work. We're doing an amazing job. Yes. And they didn't do anything. All right? They didn't do jack squat. They just deluded themselves into thinking they did anything. Nothing took place. Nothing transpired. And I'm not viewing this from an atheistic perspective or a skeptical perspective. I'm viewing this from the perspective of you got some communication from a demon, and a demon is like, thanks for saving me. Whatever, dude. That's hilarious. But you didn't save me. You didn't save anyone. And to pretend it's a human spirit involved. You can't save human spirits by telling them to go into the light. If you were to communicate with a human spirit and said, go into the light, the human spirit's going to be like, last I checked, human, you're not the Grim Reaper with access to spiritual portals. You have no say, and you can't do squat. And telling me to go somewhere doesn't affect anything on the spiritual level or realm. If it makes you feel better to repeat that bogus phrase, go into the light, I'll pretend something happened to make you happy, but no. We cannot save spirits in any way, shape, or form. Now, the best thing a spirit investigator can do is identify what the spirit is, identify what's going on, perhaps identify some source to the spiritual manifestations. And if you can't find the source, you can at least record some evidence of the spirit contact taking place, so the residents know it's not a mental thing, it's not gas in the air, that it's an actual spirit manifesting for one reason or another. I believe as a spirit investigator that I could focus in on why it's happening, and it's not always history related. A lot of ghost investigators will focus on history. Oh, let me look it up the history. Okay, someone died here 50 years ago. That's who it is. Case closed. Sometimes it has nothing to do with written history. Humans tend to jump to the most logical conclusions, but humans also tend to jump to the laziest conclusions. And as a spirit investigator, sometimes it's not the easiest, laziest, most easily explainable conclusion. Sometimes it is random, like a random negative entity is randomly roaming. Someone downloads some demon contact app on their phone. And with that will and intent, something happens. I just communicated with someone who said they called some spooky phone number and spirit activity happened in their house. And so it wasn't the spooky phone number. It was the intent. Negative entities will jump at any opportunity, like a lawyer, to be in your residence. Like a lawyer, what I mean to say is they will find any legal reason to be somewhere. And the second you prove to them they don't have any legal reason to be there, they'll start to leave. I recommend spiritually cleaning, but I also recommend physically cleaning to get rid of a negative entity. And I have multiple methods that don't involve salt, that don't involve rituals, that don't involve magic to fight magic, that just involve common sense, cleaning up your life physically and spiritually. And so I do have some methods, and I am going to try to branch out a little bit and do some professional ghost investigating, but it all is in the hands of those who need the help. But what can a ghost investigator really do? Like I said, they can diagnose a problem, they can show evidence of a problem. And with that evidence and diagnosis, they can take that proof, audio recordings, video recordings, meters being recorded, showing more than just someone's imagination, but actual manifestations. And they can take it to whatever religious group they choose to take it to. They can pursue it on an exorcism type level. So in no way, shape, or form would I get involved in exorcisms. That's something that a religious figure of a religious group of your choosing would be doing. But I don't think they'd be inclined to do it without seeing some type of evidence that there are actual spirit manifestations in your house. There are so many hundreds of religious sects and groups out there that believe in their own different rites of exorcism that I think it would be up to the owner of the location as to which to choose. Catholicism is generically the one people look at because of movies such as The Exorcist, but there are exorcism rites in Buddhism that I read about in Magic and Mystery in Tibet. There are exorcism iron spikes you dig into the dirt to exorcise spirits. And so there are a plethora of different ways to do it. I don't know if I would ever get one of those magic iron spikes and test that out. I don't know if I would want to do that because, exorcism is a freaky subject. And you get some random magical spikes and start digging them in the ground. Where does it end? It could be bringing something to your house, even owning such a device, such a magical, spiritual, religious artifact. So I've been tempted to get one of these devices. I believe it's a Tibetan Buddhist spike for religious purposes. You stick it in the ground and it repels spirits. That's similar to just getting some salt and pouring it around the place. That's also a form of magic. And what about rice? Putting rice all over the place. That's a form of magic from my perspective. Burning some sage. Burn sage in your house 24/7. That's a form of magic, in my opinion. I don't like the smell of sage necessarily, and I don't want that smell in my house. I could say, I have entered a New Age bookstore or two. They always smell like sage every time. Probably because the owners sage up the place. Now they're saging it up purposefully, and maybe they're saging it up to try to repel things out of their place. But I have sensed a few haunted New Age occult bookstores from time to time, and they always smell like sage 100% of the time. So that doesn't make me too inclined to think sage works. Sage might have the opposite effect, and it might attract spirits. Rice, as opposed to salt, they say you can pour rice in the corners of your rooms instead of salt. Rice has been used by Buddhists to appease spirits, and here's a bowl of rice to appease the great ancestors for 1,000 years. So it's not a new method, but it's something I wouldn't recommend doing. If your relative just dies and you give them a bowl of food to honor them, that's a specific purpose. It's a specific event. You don't just do it willy-nilly by throwing rice all over the place, and you don't throw salt all over the place. So I tend to be less inclined to do any magical ritual whatsoever. I just tend to use the common sense methods of physically cleaning a location and spiritually cleaning up your life. And that spiritually cleaning up your life is something that basically you know better than anyone else. And so beyond that, I would give detailed instructions on a more detailed level if I were to do a professional spirit investigation. And I am going to open up my services in the future to professional spirit investigation, and I'd be open to having a full-blown Mysterialis Ghost Investigation Crew. That's what the C in MGIC stands for. But, money talks and cash is king, they say on Storage Wars. And so it all boils down to the same thing wannabe rock stars are always asking for. When do I get paid? When do I get paid? So I guarantee MGIC would be taken more seriously if I magically hit the lottery and became a millionaire and I automatically had, hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw around. Oh, heck yeah, I want to join the MGIC. I want to join that right now today. If I ever do expand on a huge level, which would be something that would be amazing. If I ever hit the jackpot of $1 billion, MGIC would have a beautiful museum, headquarters. And I would hire official crew members. Funding is definitely an important thing. So grab yourself a t-shirt. More t-shirt designs coming soon. It would be cool if I had the resources to hire employees. Let's just put it this way. The hiring process, I would have to make sure they could bring something to the table. And I would have to make sure they wouldn't just be saying, go into the light, you don't know you're dead. I would have to, I don't know, there's a level of spiritual intuitiveness that you can't teach. You're born and you automatically have a sense for things. Some people can learn it, but if you can learn it, you can also be taught something that could be totally incorrect. When it comes to spirituality and spirits, it's not a physical thing. Spirituality and spirits is a very ethereal, non-physical thing. And because of the nature of spirits, it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole of one religious belief or another. But I would tend to want to have neutral members on MGIC that, they know the possibility of this being a negative entity, as opposed to the common New Age belief that negative entities don't exist. Good doesn't exist, bad doesn't exist. Just everything exists and flows, man. There's no truth or lies. Everything is just everything. There's no good and evil, just everything and everything. I would definitely not want to hire anyone like that, all right? Good exists in a concrete form of a nature that is forever, and evil exists in a concrete form that is forever. Hence the yin and yang of the universe. During this time frame, I personally believe negative entities have extreme wide range and free roaming ability to bother mortal human beings. And this is a problem of the last days in this particular, I don't know if you want to call it Mayan calendar, but this age, this era, is a time when the veil is thinning. And I personally believe that thinning veil has to do with communicating with spirits and them actually responding. Or communicating with spirits and them actually responding is the result of this veil thinning. And so things are going to get a little crazy and wild, and more hauntings are going to take place, and more ghost investigators are going to pop up. And some that pop up are going to be devoid of spirituality. And they're not going to know, are you an alien from Zeta Reticuli 12? Yeah? Oh, well, can you tell us what it's like to live on that alien planet? And you're not going to get any intelligent responses. You're not going to get any real information if you ask leading questions that are bogus questions. Spirits exist. Their ability to communicate with us is very limited. Negative spirits tend to have a stronger ability to communicate during this time being. I thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been John Razimus, Houston. Be seeing you.
Spirits reading next, don't know ghosts exist. Ignorance is bliss, abyssal hiss, deadly dish kiss. At the crossroads, walk unseen skies, where electromagnetic static entities recognize. Poltergeist levitation I beheld, despite being disbelieved, my belief was unparalleled. Trismegistus, spiritist, chorus of rooms, spirits is a